Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ambassador, it's good to see you in a different capacity. I
Good to
remember
see you
last
as
time we
well.
were together in the last administration, I was seeing you for a visit, but it's good to see you and welcome. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Ambassador Greer, for your time and testimony today. From day one, this administration made it clear through his America First economic agenda that the United States will no longer tolerate unfair trade practices or accept the chronic trade deficits that have hurt American workers and industries for far too long. The farmers and manufacturers I represent depend on strong, enforceable trade agreements that ensure their crops and products can compete and thrive in global markets. They are not asking for special treatment, only a level playing field. As you noted in your testimony, under the Biden administration, we saw consecutive years of agricultural trade deficits, a deeply concerning trend that reflects a broader lack of urgency to fight for American farmers, empower our workers, and focus on advancing U.S. economic interests abroad. Additionally, the prior U.S. trade representatives' retreat from efforts to negotiate critical market access from the American leadership in digital trade has created a dangerous vacuum, one that China and other adversaries are incredibly eager to fill. Without a clear, assertive economic strategy, we risk losing ground not just in agriculture or manufacturing, but also in innovation, technology, and long-term economic security. Now is the time to advance a bold, pro-growth trade policy that restores American leadership, defends our producers, and sets the terms of tomorrow's economy. Ambassador Greer, as you know, there are certain goods critical to supporting the United States manufacturers and consumers that are either not readily available in sufficient capacity or cannot be produced at all domestically due to geographic and climate limitations. Coffee and cacao are clear examples where small-scale production exists in places like Puerto Rico and Hawaii. However, this production comes nowhere near meeting domestic demand within our country. Given their importance to both consumers and domestic food manufacturers, could you please speak to how the administration is working with industry stakeholders and international trading partners to maintain secure, reliable access to these essential imports?
Certainly. First of all, I appreciate your comments and pointing out this because the global economy is complex. Among some of the countries that I have coming in to speak, I'm meeting, for example, with Madagascar within the next day or two. And as has been mentioned here, vanilla is sourced from Madagascar, among other things. So we're certainly engaging in conversations with those countries, including those who have some of those things that cannot necessarily be grown here. So that's certainly part of it. We're sensitive to those needs. And again, I've mentioned this before with respect to U.S., Canada, and Mexico, where we have a lot of components and parts that may come across. That's currently not subject to a duty if they comply with the rules.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. In your comments yesterday to my colleagues in the Senate, you mentioned that roughly 50 countries have reached out in recent days to negotiate with this administration's following last week's trade action. I'm particularly interested in the engagement with countries of the Indo-Pacific and Africa, where many American businesses compete with companies subsidized by the Chinese Communist Party. Among the countries that have reached out, how's the administration considering these unique challenges while ensuring critical market access for advancing U.S. economic and strategic interests?
So for example, you mentioned Southeast Asia. Some of the things we've seen Cambodia and Vietnam, for example, come forward and say that they want to engage in reciprocal trade. They've made certain proposals on lowering tariff levels. I think that, it can be challenging because they do have Chinese businesses operating there too. So I think if you're going to get to a situation where you're having to deal with some of these folks, one, you want to make sure it's real market access they're giving you, not just tariff levels, but also the non-tariff barriers. And you also want to make sure you're not giving a benefit to Chinese companies operating in those countries, right? We don't want some deal with them only to have it become Chinese companies, pushing product to the United States through Vietnam or Cambodia. So that's something we're looking at in terms of rules of origin, et cetera.
Well, thank you very much for your attention to detail on this matter. It's big in our district, and so that's why I bring it up, and thank you for your answer. And if I may, and it's a little bit of a tough one, but on what timeline do you expect these negotiations to move, and the outcome, what should we be watching for as the trade commitments from our partners across the globe?
Certainly. Well, before the action even went into place, trading partners knew action was coming, right? They heard the president, as everyone had, and so they came in advance to talk about possibilities where they could have more reciprocal trade with us. This afternoon, I have additional meetings. I'm working with other members of the cabinet to make sure we can work with these folks. understand where they're coming down, what their offers might be, and this is job one for the next few weeks and months.
Well, Ambassador, I just want to thank you very much for your hard work, your dedication to this country, and the service that you're doing as ambassador. And just checking here, seeing as some of the tariffs that the president is doing have already adjusted a bit. The market's up 2,300. So I know it's in the beginning of the administration, but I feel very confident about your direction and leadership moving through with these negotiations. Thank you very much. Thank you, Chairman. I yield back.